on in, let's talk. What a day. Got me until one second. Gotta grab something. I don't think my strength's gonna last. Come on, let's talk tonight. Let's have a conversation, man. Come on in. Let's have a conversation tonight about everything that's happening across the country. We got to talk. We got to have a conversation. We got to have a conversation. We got to have a conversation. Listen, in honor of George Floyd, can you just guys, when you guys come in, can y'all just type, I can't breathe. Like, I cannot breathe. I've started kind of live on multiple platforms right now. Just type, I can't breathe, in honor of George Floyd, who lost his life in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Come on in. Let's talk about it. I'm actually learning this new equipment that I got a hold to. So when you come in, just type I cannot breathe, and we're gonna talk. We're gonna talk about what it feels like when you feel like Malcom X in a Martin Luther King society. I want to deal with that just very quickly. I felt compelled to share the sentiments of my heart concerning just what we've been witnessing on TV, the news, the TV, social media. Again, when you come in, just type I cannot breathe, I can't breathe, in honor of George Floyd and his family, who have had to suffer a tremendous loss. Imagine having to cut the TV on every single day and seeing your child cry out, Mama, I cannot breathe. Please help me. So in honor of him, let's go ahead and just type, I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. Because I just can't imagine, oh no, what happened to my life? Something happened. Am I still live? Can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me? Yes or no? So I'll know that you're here. Oh, my camera's still red. I don't know. It says it's still, my camera's still recording. I don't know. I'm gonna keep going. I mean, my iPad is saying that it's a connection loss, but my camera's definitely on. It's red. The descriptions are here, so I'm gonna keep going. Is that okay? You hear me? Okay. Oh well. Appreciate that, Maurice. Listen, as you guys come in, let's just type and ascribe to the death of George Floyd, and let's just type, I cannot breathe. I can't 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 breathe. If you watch the video over and over and over and over again, like I did, George Floyd would have found himself postured at the knee of a police officer, and we watched it. The world watched how he would have been brutally executed or lynched from the ground, literally his neck, his knee to George Floyd's neck. What was just crazy and baffling to me, before I start digging into the realities of how many of us are feeling, what was just completely just baffling to me is that seems as if the officer enjoyed it. I don't know. Maybe it was just me. It just seemed as if the officer enjoyed what he was doing. It was almost like he was getting a lick out of it, like he was actually enjoying. I mean, he had his hand in his pocket like he was golfing. I mean, it was almost as if he was enjoying what he was doing. The fact that George Floyd, I'm going to keep saying his name over and over again, but the fact that George Floyd would have found himself postured in a position to where he would have been squirming and crying out to his mother for help, saying, my stomach is hurting, my chest is hurting, my neck is hurting, and I cannot breathe. The officer looked at it, had his hands in his pocket, like this is way too easy. Executing this black man is way too easy, and it's coming with no conviction. I feel nothing. I feel numb about executing the life of this man. What's absolutely scary, Maurice, is that this particular instance comes off the back of an instance that we all saw again on the news. Y'all know her name, Miss Amy Cooper, in the Gambles Park up in New York. Y'all saw it. Had her dog off the leash in an area where people love to watch the birds. In fact, that's one of the reasons why the rule is to have your dog on a leash, because people are watching the birds. And so Christian Cooper asked her to put a dog on the leash, even has some dog treats for the dog so that he can watch birds as he does avidly. And she turned into an entirely different person and says, I'm going to call the police. I'm going to call the police. And I'm going to tell them that you're harassing me because you're videoing me and you won't stop. Calling the police. She gets on the phone with law enforcement. She's angry, she's mad, she's upset, but she turns her frustration into a whole nother tear. She goes, oh my God, I got an African-American man who's threatening my life and my dog's life. All over again. Time and time again. We even go back and we catapult ourselves to the past of the death of Ahmaud Arbery. Viewing and witnessing the video footage of another unarmed black man murdered at the hands of a white man. Here is my problem. My problem is here. Too many of us ascribe to the notion that the time is calling for a necessity to have a conversation about black on black crime. The truth of the matter is, crimes between African Americans are not disproportionate to crimes of white Americans against white Americans. Statistically proven. This is data. This is numbers right here. This is not a perspective. This is not an opinion. This is statistical data. There are almost just as many white people killing white people as much as there are black people killing black people. If I be it wrong, please correct me. Now, this does not mean that the conversation of blacks killing blacks shouldn't be had. This doesn't mean that the conversations of our intercommunal issues shouldn't be ascribed to. This doesn't mean we should not talk about black on black crime. This doesn't mean that black on black crime shouldn't be conversed about or that there is no issue, but it does mean that that conversation does not fit into this one. In fact, to raise a notion of black on black crime in the face of an unarmed black man being murdered by a white man, moreover a police officer, is just like saying all lives matter in the face of Black Lives Matter. It's disrespectful to my black. What's scary is when black people do it. That's some sunken place type of stuff. When black people go on and say, well, don't get mad about this white police officer killing this black man when you're not being upset about black people killing black. Shut up. That conversation does not fit into this conversation. We talking about apples and you raising the notion of oranges. Yeah, all of it's fruit. Murder is murder. Death is death. But the problem that we have right now, Denzel, is that there are too many African Americans who are dying in the name of an unjust justice system. There are too many African Americans who are being brutally murdered on camera in the face of all of us in the name of what's right. What do you do when you live in a world where people only subscribe to the portions of Dr. Martin Luther King that promoted peace? What do you do when you live in a society that gives Dr. Martin Luther King a day and a holiday, a government holiday, but they don't ascribe to the reasons in which he died? What do you do when you feel like Malcom X in a Martin Luther King society? What do you do? What do you do? What do you do? Do me a favor. I need y'all to just start typing. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. Here's the problem. Eric Gardner couldn't breathe. What do you do when you can't breathe and law enforcement is still killing you? What do you do? What do you do when you can't walk to the store and go back home like Trayvon Martin? What do you do? What do you do when you comply with law enforcement and you still have the propensity to lose your life? What do you do? What do you say? How do you respond? When you can't breathe? When you can't walk home? When you can't be like Ahmaud Arbery and walk down the street? What do you do? Here's the bigger problem. Why are all the right people not saying anything? I went to a predominantly Caucasian high school. Best friends with a lot of them. Super, super close with their parents. Graduated together, went to prom together. Did homecoming together. I done been to some of their weddings. Have been there when some of their children were born. My fear is that they are way too quiet. Silence in the face of something like this It's almost complicit. Not saying anything. In a moment like this, it's almost complicit. What do you do? I'll tell you what you do. You go vote. You go vote. It's simple. It's a call for white people to say something. It's your responsibility to say something. You're not anti-racist until you've shown that you're anti-racist. Saying I'm not a racist does not make you a racist. Tell your other counterparts to say something. White evangelicals got to say something. Until weaponizing race is denounced and becomes an American problem and not a black problem, we're going to always have these issues. We're going to always have these issues. Did you hear what I just said? Until weaponizing race becomes an American problem and not just a black problem, we're going to always have these particular issues. Do me a favor. I'm going to move into something else real fast. I just want y'all to just type, I can't breathe. I can't breathe. The reality is, as I was watching the video of George Floyd, and he would say, "Mama, help me. I cannot breathe." I literally, as I was watching the video, I was holding my breath, not breathing with him. Because in this instance, if George Floyd didn't deserve to breathe, then none of us do. I am a black man to my core. To my core. I'm a black man. It's a shame that leaving my home and coming back unscarred is considered one of the biggest blessings of my day aside from waking up. What do you do? What do you do even after Eric Gardner and you still can't breathe? What do you do when you watch a man sell CDs in front of a convenience store and ends up being called, the police being called on him by a Karen? What do you do when he loses his life? Here's a bigger problem. Don't run from law enforcement, but every time law enforcement is called, something unjust happens. What do you do? What do you do when you still cannot breathe? How do you handle the pain of watching your brothers and your sisters beg for their life on TV? How do you ascribe to a gospel that does not condemn injustice when you continuously scroll on your social media platforms and you see the pain coming from black folks crying because their loved one was killed and no justice has been given? I'm not pondering for anger. I ain't trying to make anybody mad. This is not a F the police type of live. This is speaking to the trauma, the pain, the hurt, and frustration of black people all over this country, all over the world.